What is the future of ethics and corporate sustainability in retail? That's the question handled by our facilitator. Bill Bowie is co-founder of Convedit and the Sustainability Context Group with deep knowledge of true sustainability. Our theme, scenario analysis. Bill, what does this mean?
So scenario analysis is a practice that is really gaining currency right now in the sustainability field. It's basically looking into a crystal ball, if you will, and projecting what likely things might happen in the future, and doing this in order to, anticipate what changes you might want to make as a business.
Wow, that's pretty incredible conversation. Tell me about the three experts that really stood out on the panel for this.
Yeah, in fact, this theme, we've got the same three standouts. Perhaps unsurprisingly, that Bill Roth, David Feidner, and Lise Laurin are continuing to perform at a really high level here on this particular engagement. And as you'll hear later, as we delve into the key themes themselves, they really interact with one another quite well.
And in your executive summary, 2 primary points, is that right?
Yes. So this really focused on, there was a tension that arose between incrementalism as compared to transformation when it comes to achieving sustainability. And then the other sort of key thing that arose was that Bruce Klafter, another strong performer on a regular basis, he listed a bunch of considerations to include in scenarios, and then Lise Laurin and David Feidner took that to the next level of granularity.
Ah, that's so exciting. In key point number 1, you sort of break down this argument of incremental or transformative.
Yeah, and what was interesting about that is that Lise Laurin actually cited an example of, a life cycle assessment of the Ford F-150. It found that even a small change in miles per gallon from 17 to 19, it seems like a small change, but when you extrapolate that off the entire U.S. fleet, it actually becomes a pretty profound shift. So Lise Laurin was really asserting that as a sustainability win, if you will. Bill Roth pushed back on that and said, that's, movement in the right direction, but sustainability really requires that you hit certain thresholds. So, an aluminum-bodied vehicle is a win in some ways, but it really doesn't put a dent into the overall greenhouse gas emissions reductions that we need to achieve.
And then in key point number 2, you break down some of these scenarios, huh?
Bruce Klafter, who works on the corporate side, just listed some of the key elements that would need to be included in a scenario analysis of the future of retailing. And so, some of these were the intersection between human interaction on the one hand and digital technology on the other hand. Other considerations included the predominance of big boxes versus the move towards localization and specialization. And then finally, a topic that we've seen come up again and again is sort of millennial attitudes compared to the old guard, if you will.
It's interesting because you talk about the e-commerce versus brick and mortar and then human versus robotic. But even in the brick and mortar, it seems the robotic is getting more and more prevalent, right? Self-checkout and self-purchase, that kind of thing.
Exactly, and in fact, you hit the nail on the head in the sense that these are less and less seen as opposing one another, and they're actually kind of integrating such that we're optimizing the in-store experience through robotics or AI, etc. There's not a wall between them necessarily.
I think Starbucks is probably an interesting example where they have the app, so you can place your order on your app. Then you get to the store, so you're using the brick and mortar, and your stuff's sitting there ready for you to go. So, which are you having? Are you having a brick and mortar human experience, or are you having a virtual reality experience, right? Or an AI experience?
We spoke with Accenture about what we thought were the most interesting sort of takeaways from this theme, and we decided to focus on that very intersection between the human physical presence and the Siri or Alexa presence, if you will, for our next theme.
That's great. And key point number 3, it says deeper considerations.
Yeah, so that basically just went into the next layer of granularity, as I mentioned up front, around these issues. And so Lise Laurin mentioned, will Amazon and Alibaba become more dominant, or will, places like Walmart carve out spaces for themselves? David Feidner mentioned that scenario analysis by retailers must keep up with the developments that are happening in real time, and particularly, balancing the kind of individualism, such as, highly personalized data and retail everywhere, so to speak, versus sort of what can we do to kind of create collectivist trends, such as creating a circular economy where we're making much better use of our materials collectively.
And so far, Bill, is this path more evolution or revolution in terms of this change?
Bill Roth in particular continues to talk about the disruptive role of technology that he sees as both needing to take place and increasingly actually taking place. And so he has been a strong voice for the notion of the kind of revolutionary, disruptive transformation that technology in particular can play.
Okay, let's move on to key point number 4, which is the consumerism.
Yeah, typically we see consumerism as an anti-sustainability dynamic, in the sense that the more that gets consumed, the less sustainable we are, because those are materials that get used up, as well as creating negative impacts such as pollution. So it's really a question of, this ability to kind of blend the digital and physical aspects may be able to help, increase the efficiency of the consumer experience such that it reduces those negative impacts. So I'd say that the Starbucks example that you mentioned earlier, may be an example where that kind of optimization takes place, and people have a more streamlined experience and are able to be more effective elsewhere in their lives. A net sum gain all around.
Key point number 5, spheres of influence, large versus small retailers.
Yeah, so this was really sort of looking at the question of players like Walmart, for example, having a huge amount of influence. Really, when somebody like Walmart sets a sustainability standard, entire supply chains have to march to that drum. And so, that's an effect that we've seen quite a bit. But Natalie Calhoun, who's really a newer voice, and really nice to see the new voices coming into this board, she mentioned that, might that sphere of influence actually spread to smaller players? So, for example, having government policy or environmental groups or even other smaller retailers, push somebody like, say, a Starbucks to prove their environmental impact. So it was really just a point about looking at different levers of change at different levels of scale.
Well, Bill, I know you had a lot of different great voices on the panel. Tell us more about the participants.
Yeah, I think you've heard a bit about Bill Roth, David Feidner, and Lise Laurin, who were the top performers. As I mentioned, Bruce Klafter really played a key role in terms of, listing those key considerations. Natalie Calhoun is a new voice that just joined us recently that's been performing particularly well. Ushma Pandya also contributed productively during this round, as did Maria Leo. So we do have a nice diversity of voices participating in these themes on this board.
And you teased us a little bit about our next theme, which is going to be about...
Yeah, it's basically taking one or actually two of the specific considerations that Bruce Klafter listed and going into depth on those. So essentially, we're going to look at, in a more hands-on way, what a scenario analysis might have to say about this intersection between the human element or in-person element of retail as compared to the digital or technological element. And so it's actually something I'm really looking forward to. We've just launched that, and we'll see how it goes. We'll talk in a couple of weeks and recap that one.
Well, thanks for walking us through this data.
Oh, gladly. Always great to talk to you, Gene.
Bill Bowie is a co-founder of Convedit and the Sustainability Context Group with a deep knowledge of true sustainability. Thanks again, Bill.
Thank you, Gene. Take care.